Good morning, Chicago Cubs fans, and we are back with another edition of Cubs Daily. My name is Steven Ryan. We're going to break down the 4-2 loss yesterday as the bats remain a little frigid up in Minnesota. The Cubs are apparently in on one of the Miami Marlins right-handed pitchers, and we'll talk about Seiya Suzuki being the biggest all-star snub this season, and we will wrap up this series in Minnesota. But before we get into all that, just want to give everyone a big thank you. We appreciate all the support here on Cubs Daily on the road to 1K officially. Everyone keeps joining the crew. We love to see it. Keep on liking the videos. Keep commenting. Keep letting me know your thoughts. And again, if you haven't yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. So the Cubs dropped the game yesterday 4-2. Again, from the grand scale of it, it doesn't look like too big of a loss or any of that nature. Cade Horton went out and pitched his little heart out. He went 5 innings, but unfortunately just didn't have enough to get the job done. And, of course, bitten by some hard-hit baseballs and just, couldn't get out of his own way in that sense. Again, usually giving up 4 runs isn't the end of the world. Generally speaking, a lot of pitchers have ERAs in between 3 and 4, but, Cade's young. There's going to be a lot of ups. There's going to be some downs. There's going to be some growing pains. It's all in the balance of how this works with young developing pitchers. So I do expect great things from Cade Horton and this Cubs staff down the road, but this year is going to be some growing pains with him, obviously. He's got great swing and miss stuff. He was able to get himself out of some jams yesterday, but unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. And again, the Cubs offense just... I don't know what happened from the weekend. I don't know what happened traveling to Minnesota, but they left their bats in Chicago. So hopefully, once they leave Minnesota, they connect down to O'Hare, grab the bats, and head on out to Yankee Stadium, because that's going to be the next series tomorrow. So Cubs do lose 4-2. Unfortunate there to watch on that front, but hey, it's the middle of July. We have the MLB draft next week, and you know what? I think some reinforcements might be on their way sooner rather than later. So let's talk about it, okay? The Cubs are apparently one of the few teams that are in on the Marlins right-handed pitcher Edward Cabrera. I know the big rumor all season was Sandy Alcantara, but Edward Cabrera is another interesting piece. He's been very good for the Marlins all season long with a 3.33 ERA. He's pitched very well his last start. He went 7 innings, pitching gems. Edward Cabrera is very talented. Him and Sandy are supposed to be the front 2 arms of this Marlins rotation for the next decade. But, unfortunately, the Marlins cannot develop consistency and put together a roster that's really suitable for the strength of these 2 arms. Now, the Marlins are, I think, 6.5 games back of that last wild card spot, so I don't think the Marlins are necessarily giving up on the season. They're kind of seeing how it goes since they've been playing so well since the beginning of June and into early July. But again, if the right package comes along, they might have to consider trading Edward Cabrera or Sandy Alcantara. I'm not sure who is going to be a part of this deal for Edward Cabrera. The Cubs' #1 prospect, Owen Casey, has been absolutely raking down in the minor leagues. And I'm not sure if the Cubs really want to give him up. They kind of want to have an insurance policy just in case Tucker does not re-sign here. I know Chuck Swirsky on the radio said the Cubs are going to re-sign Tucker. I wish that was a guarantee. The only thing I'm going to be guaranteed is when I see that official bomb from Rosenthal or Passan or something of that nature before I believe anything that happens. Because, there's two sides to that story with Kyle Tucker, right? You're on the side of what we've seen recently with Cubs history is they don't pay people, and you're on the other side is like, hey, they don't have a choice but to pay them. And I agree. I think Jed is forcing Tom Ricketts' hand here. Like, hey, I made all these ancillary moves to get this guy on our team. We need to keep him, especially with the success of Cam Smith down in Houston, as Isaac Paredes is balling there as well. So I think the Cubs do have to re-sign Kyle Tucker, but I think they want to keep that insurance policy of Owen Casey as well. And honestly, if Owen Casey is going to hit like he's hitting down in AAA in the big leagues, he might come up here and be a DH. But either way, I don't know what the package is going to look like necessarily for Edward Cabrera, but it's going to be a few top prospects, no doubt. So curious to see which the Cubs are going to get a pitcher. I just don't know quite who it's going to be yet. I've heard Sandy Alcantara all year, Mitch Keller, Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly. I've heard Edward Cabrera as well. I'm genuinely curious to see. Yesterday on the radio, they were ranking the positions of need for this Cubs team, and I kind of had to agree with the list, right? Frontline ace. Now, that frontline ace might not be available, but I still think it's our number one need. Number two, a good high leverage arm reliever, okay? Danny Palencia has been sensational all year. This bullpen has really, truly turned it around. I still would like one more high leverage arm, especially come the month of October. Number three would be a nice filler starter, right? Like a Mitch Keller type. I'm not sure where Edward Cabrera ranks, but Edward Cabrera could be like that for us, or Edward Cabrera could become the number one ace if he takes that next step. I don't know personally if he has that stuff, though. I like to think positively, but I hold number one pitcher on a rotation in a very, very elite class. Like, there's only 3 or 4 of them in the game, personally. So, who knows what the Cubs are going to do? I'm excited to see. They've always kept it close to the vest. You never know what's going to come out of a reporter's mouth and what's going to be true or what's going to be false. So, let's talk about our main man, Seiya Suzuki. He was the first Cub since Sammy Sosa to have 25 home runs and 75 RBIs since at the All-Star break, since before the All-Star break for Cubs. Now, he is one of 5 players to have those marks, 25 home runs, 75 RBIs, and not make the All-Star team, okay? We're talking 1935 Hank Greenberg. We're talking 2000 Frank Thomas. We're talking Ryan Howard in 2008. And then I forgot the last one, but there's another player as well. So he's only one of 5 people that have those accolades so far this year and still didn't make the All-Star team. So is he the biggest snub? Yes, you can make the argument. But again, we have to remember, ladies and gentlemen, that fan voting is a big-time part of this. If you want to break down real numbers, like, you can go look at Freddie Freeman and Michael Busch. Michael Busch is having a better year than Freddie Freeman. But again, Freddie Freeman is a future MLB Hall of Famer. He's got brand recognition. There's just a lot going for Freddie Freeman in that situation. So I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying I see why he was an all-star starter. Now, this is what I said before. Seiya being an all-star snub, Michael Busch being an all-star snub, whoever you thought was being a snub from this Cubs team, this is fuel, ladies and gentlemen. We need this to be fuel for these players. They need to feel motivated because it's all-star game's fun. The notion of how good you are having a year is fantastic. Guess what? I only want October. I want to play baseball in October. I want to win in October. I'm sorry, but if you guys had a really fun time, in 2015, 2016, 2017, going to the NLCS, I did too. I want that again. I want to feel that way again. And if you want to look at the grand scheme of how this Cubs team has been ran over the past decade, what if I told you that if the Cubs made the NLCS this year, that they would have been in 40% of the NLCSs in the past 10 years? If you want to spin it that way, there's always a way to spin things in a positive light, and I try to keep things generally positive here. That's a pretty good number, I would say. 4 out of 10 NLCSs. I know the first 3 were in 2015, 2016, and 2017. You don't have to remind me. I'm very aware. But again, we had a little retooling period, right? We had to kind of let go of some guys that helped us get there. Then we had to rebuild our farm system, et cetera, et cetera. And now we are rip-roaring and probably back to make some more NLCSs. So I like where this team's at. I do think we need to make a move or two, but Seiya being a snub, Busch being a snub, these are not our biggest problems of the day, ladies and gentlemen. So the series finale wraps up here in Minnesota. Again, the Cubs have dropped the first 2. Let's get another W today, okay? We got our man Colin Ray on the bump. We're going against former Padre Chris Paddock. Should be a good game. Again, those 1 o'clock games are kind of weird during the weekday, so I'm hoping this Cubs team is ready to bounce back. The bats have been electric for Colin Ray. I'll say that much, okay? Averaging over 10 runs a game. This Cubs team is known to bounce back in these situations. So, excited to watch the game today. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your Thursday. I'll be back tomorrow with some more Cubs Daily, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Peace.